I still have with me in the studio Dr. Dokun Adedeji.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
It's a civic responsibility.
And also, we still have in the studio Dr. Dele Sheteolu.
Good evening, Nigerians.
Joining us virtually from Abuja, we have Felix Okoro, Editor-in-Chief, Nigeria Yellow Pages. Good afternoon, Felix. Felix, can you hear me?
Yes, I said thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Very, very shortly. Dr. Adedeji, let me start from you. You know, this update from Abeokuta, let's look at it more closely. In terms of the outstanding local governments, this is almost 6 p.m. It looks like it's going to be a long wait.
It will be a long wait, and it's very disappointing. I mean, as we said at the beginning, there was so much hype about how this will turn out to be, and every Nigerian is expectant that it's not as if we want the result tonight, but at least that all the process will have set in place, and then we can have a view of where we're going. But from what it is in Ogun State, 20 local government, we can only get 10. How many hours after the election? And then we're still waiting. You know, the fear is this: we are laying a foundation for judicial intervention. When you give so much time between voting, collation, and announcing, I know the painful thing is nobody is saying anything. If we're getting information as to why something is happening, people's fears will be allayed, but there's a vacuum of information, and everybody is now wondering what is happening, what is happening. If we have voted ending since yesterday and then we're still waiting, it leaves much to be desired. Honestly, it's painful that after so much hype that, oh, we worked so hard, we're ready for this election. The gentleman said people were trained for 3 days. How can you train someone on 3 days that's something that is not familiar with? And then we expect him to have a mastery of it, and then to be able to do, of course, we're deceiving ourselves. And that's why you find that maybe some of them have absconded because they couldn't put their lives on the line for what they cannot hold on to, and then they say, hey, why should I come and be held responsible for learning from what happened to some coppers or some ad hoc staff some years ago? Honestly, we joke too much in this country with serious things. It's sad.
Dr. Sheteolu.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I want you to respond to the same situation.
Well, you know, Doctor made valid points. Elections were held presumably between 8 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, and it's about 6 p.m. on a Sunday. And the results, you know, for 10 local governments are still expected.
In one state.
In one state.
No, in a state.
Yes.
Yes, because we're discussing Ogun. 10 local governments in a state are expected. I mean, it's certainly not tidy. It's certainly not it does not suggest that INEC is efficient. No, I insist, with due respect, that this INEC is incompetent. I said it yesterday, and I'll repeat it. This INEC is incompetent. In fact, this INEC should be sacked post-election.
Let's finish this.
You know, I will need a new INEC to conduct subsequent elections.
All right. Felix Okoro, you're back on. If you can hear me now, it's the day after the presidential and national assembly elections, and you know, a lot of results, collation of results, still outstanding at the state level. What are your thoughts on this development?
It is not totally unexpected, given what happened or what found out yesterday. Everybody witnessed the fact that INEC could not deliver as much as it had promised us. A whole lot of logistical problems, a whole lot of security issues, and so much hype, but little on delivery. with the introduction of technology, bimodal voters accreditation system, and the IREP, it is expected by now all the results, or even if all of them for any logistical reason, maybe for those that are doing another continuation of the election today, at least we should have had about 90% of all the results by now. But here we are. Officially, strictly speaking, we don't have any results yet until the collation center will open by 6 p.m. because when INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, came to the collation center by 1:30 p.m., he said by 6 p.m. today, hopefully, some results would have come from the states. So it's still a waiting game. But as per the result not coming now, I, for one, am not surprised. Do you know that in some polling units here in the FCT, some people were still voting as at almost midnight? Some people slept in the polling units, and in some other parts of the country. So I am not surprised that the results are not in yet. But hopefully, we have to be patient. We have to still keep hope alive. I can't condemn INEC now, but let's see how the whole thing progresses. From 6 p.m., they will be releasing the result according to INEC chairman. Let's see maybe whether the result will meet the expectation of many or not. So that is my immediate thought for now.
Okay, but how would you respond to the issue of technology in these elections? The idea is that it would make the process better, it will make it faster, and it will make it more efficient and more credible. Are we seeing this in view of this development?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's all hype. Technology will do this, technology will do that. There might be something wrong. There might be nothing wrong with the technology, I should say. But what of those operating those devices? Because we learned in the past, like when this BVAS was initially introduced, the problems then were that ad hoc staff were not properly trained. A case in point was the Anambra election. Those who came to Abuja to train, on getting to Anambra, they all eloped. So they had to make an ad hoc arrangement to have people who didn't really come for that training to handle the devices. So we can't condemn the devices for now. Maybe the people handling the devices didn't receive the requisite training to be able to operate the devices. That could be the problem. There might be problem associated with the device itself, but it is by the time every result is in and an analysis is done, we are not saying that there cannot be some devices that might malfunction. It's usual with technology, but it is the percentage of number of devices that didn't work well or didn't perform optimally that will now lead us to whether to say, okay, this technology is good or this technology is not good. So there might be issues associated with the devices, and there might also issues associated with the human element. Because if you talk of technology, it's not totally automated. There is the human factor that operates that technology. So if the human element that operates the technology is not well trained, you will still have problem with that technology. And you cannot blame it on that technology per se.
Right. Gentlemen, Mr. Okoro has raised a very germane question. How difficult is it to train people effectively?
The thing is this. The training for a procedure like this, it can't just be an ad hoc, let's just teach you how to press button. if you are training someone to manage this, it must be a sense, this is how it works. In case this happens, this is what you do. This. So that cannot be done in 3 days to someone who has no basic understanding of it. The question that I want to ask is, if this thing is about IT, is it possible, are we saying that we do not have so many IT competent people to handle it, that the training will be minimal than to go and take somebody off the street?
Who understand
Who
how the system
understand?
works.
Exactly. You know, the thing is, you give me something, you give a driver a car to drive, you train him to drive, but he knows that when the battery does not start, he needs to go to the head of the battery and do something. He needs to look at least basic things. Are these people trained in such basic that in case you press this button, something happens and this flashes, this is what you need to do? Probably they are just trained, okay, just go there. When you do it like this, you can capture the person, it gives you a number. What if he doesn't? And so the guys, because he doesn't have an idea of what to do next, is bemused, and then he can't act. The issue of training is so critical. It cannot be an ad hoc training for an ad hoc person to handle something that is so sensitive. It must be that if it's money, get these people for about a week. And I keep saying, it may be up to a month. Let them get used to it. Let them understand it. Try it in the area. It doesn't have to be a big trial. And then try it, and then they can show you. If you can't get it, then somebody else. How can you send people out who have no understanding of what device they're going to use? As Mr. Okoro said, the problem may not be the device. It may not be the device. It may just be the application and also the use of it. And that's why we are where we are. How can we have an election since yesterday, and then it's so difficult to upload, it's so difficult to collate? What are we collating? Because if we don't get these things right from basic, we just be collating rubbish. And then we will announce and say we had an election. And then you leave room for judicial intervention.
So we need to have a tidier process.
Absolutely.
From
foundation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Sheteolu,
Yes,
look at this. You're ready for my question. Look at this, dispassionately, very dispassionately. Okay. I know you have, some reservation about performance, but look at it in a dispassionate manner. This challenges, while they are surmountable, how can we rework some of these things to ensure that, if it's not limited, if it's not totally done away with, it can be brought to a minimal level?
Oh, wow. The point is, we're still in the election, phase. We're not done with the elections. So it will be difficult for me to discuss, how to transcend the challenges, because we're not done with this. Yes, and we do not know what new challenges might emerge. At the risk of speculating, I'm afraid it's not likely that any state, it's less likely that any state, will present results at 6. And it's not likely that that the results will be announced by Wednesday or Thursday this week.
Let's wait and see. Let's see.
At the risk of speculating, but there are trends. There are trends, and we can see the trends. We can see the trends. We made the point yesterday. Electoral management, had been a major impediment to reliable and credible electoral outcomes in Africa. And most of the states in Africa, including Nigeria, are not reflecting sufficiently well, on how to, to deal with these challenges. It's not sufficient to identify the challenges. We know what the challenges are. We've always known what the challenges are. But ironically, the problems reoccur each time election is out. You know, the headship of the electoral body, you know, it's important, you know, in the long run. And how do I mean? Whoever, I'm not doubting the competence. I'm not doubting the competence of the INEC chair, you know, but there have been suggestions that the leadership, you know, of the electoral body should include organizations other than INEC. For instance, civil society organizations, you know, in my view, should be accommodated, you know, in the structure of INEC, such that, you know, the non-state officials on the INEC structure, you know, would have the window to give on the field, you know, feedbacks, you know, to the electoral commissions on what the situations are, what the obstacles are, how the obstacles could be tackled, and so on and so forth. You know, I suppose that the electoral body is not falling short of suggestions. It's not falling short of prescriptions on how to mediate the challenges. But it is obvious that that these officials are not learning, you know. So the INEC appears to be a microcosm of the Nigerian state, you know, that is not growing beyond, you know, where it has been.
Right.
And it's rather, you know, and Nigeria, you know, as a state, you know, it's rather retrogressing. If it were stagnating, we would, okay, we might conclude, oh, stagnate will probably grow. But it's retrogressing. INEC appears to be retrogressing. Yeah. Because it was somewhat better in 2019, and this 2023, 4 years later. We're having challenges and issues. You know, INEC itself, at raised expectations, would not likely exist. Right. But here we are, with challenges that are huge, right, and that are detracting from the credibility of the process.
Right. Felix Okoro, let me come back to you, and you know, just take it up from where our two gentlemen have touched on. How do we manage our electoral processes much more efficiently? Not only now, but in future elections.
Okay, you know, I said yesterday, we can't be doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Let me even go back to 1999 when we started this republic. There has been the problem of logistics for INEC. It is not new. There's nothing that is happening now that is new. The point is that, is it not time we go back to Wales' report? Justice Wales. Because after the 2007 elections, the person that emerged the winner, the late President Umar Yar'Adua, set up the Wales electoral reform. And that committee made a whole lot of recommendations that will help to make INEC to perform optimally. Here, now that logistics has been a major problem, it is time to unbundle INEC. We should think of having a logistic company that is independent of INEC. Maybe it could be somehow a creation of INEC that could handle this logistics. I am surprised that You know, DHL, the number of mail and parcels they deliver on a daily basis. Not to talk of just how many polling units in Nigeria that we cannot effectively and efficiently deliver materials. The major challenge INEC is having is logistics. And they will tell you they don't have the vehicles, they don't own the drivers, they need support from other stakeholders. They cannot provide security. They will depend on the police as a lead agency with other sister security organizations to be able to deliver security before, during, and after elections. So there are so many things that are not under the control of INEC. So the best way, if we want to be very serious in finding a solution to this problem, is to unbundle INEC. I don't know what their project management strategy is. Election is a big project, not to talk of a general election for a country like Nigeria with a massive population. I don't know their project management strategy, how in their own plan they wish to reach to all their polling units. It has to be clearly spelled out. And if they have tried whatever plan or strategy they have for about 20 years since we started this republic, or 24 years, sorry, I think it's about time they rejig or rework or see what could be done in order to strengthen that aspect. Just like they are now thinking of establishing electoral offenses tribunal. Because when people commit electoral offenses, INEC doesn't have prosecutorial powers. Even if they arrest anybody, they can't even arrest because they don't have security of their own. Okay? So we can be talking of having, they can use civil defense, maybe incorporate them in terms of this logistical problem they have, or create another organization that will take care of this whole problem. Not that a day or two to the election, you will start moving materials across the country. Some areas have beset with insecurity. Some areas have bad roads. Some areas, the terrain, they are such that it's not a place you go a day before election. You need to get there even a week before that election. Okay? So if we want INEC to perform, not as it is presently constituted, I am not against Yakub and his men at INEC. He might not be the problem. It's just like when you come to a system, if that system delivers, okay, whoever is heading that system will definitely deliver. But if you have a system that doesn't deliver, even if you bring the best CEO in the world, that system might not deliver. That is when they tell you a problem is systemic. And I want to believe that INEC's problem is systemic. We have to rejig that system. We have to check out their operational modalities as regards conduct of election. When you come to policy, INEC is doing well. Innovative, they are doing well. Legal framework, they are doing well. But the core mandate, which is to conduct that election, there is a big comma. So in order to make INEC optimal, we have to do something about their operations and how to think outside the box as per how to get them to deliver election on time. Because if we leave them as they are, that would be the same. In 1999, it is the same. 2003, the same. 2007, 11, 19, 15, and this year, that nothing has changed. It has been the same since so. There's absolutely nothing that has changed.
If you're just joining us, it's Election Watch on Galaxy TV. We'll take a quick break and bring you a report from Surulere Akinyele Aguda polling unit, where as captured by our correspondent, Levy Joseph. Stay with us.
I'm right here at Akinyele in Aguda, the place where hoodlums disrupted election process yesterday. At 081 and 082 polling units, hoodlums came around and disrupted election. Meanwhile, INEC decided to do the election today, but till this moment, officials of INEC have not shown up, and the people are waiting to exercise their civic rights.
Yeah, we are supposed to vote here. In fact, we have organized ourselves. The election has, accreditation has almost started before some hoodlum come here, use gun and scatter people. Everybody ran away. And when we heard that some areas are going to be rerun today, we are hanging around hoping that the INEC will come for us to exercise our duty. But up to now, we have not seen anybody on ground. Where they injure somebody is one street behind the other side. Nobody was injured. Yes, they carried both card readers and some of the electoral material and ran away.
Yes, nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ bí lánàá à ń dìbò bá a ṣe ń dìbò kò sí wàhálà kò sẹ́nìtì so akọ̀ṣàdédé rí pé àwọn ọkùnrin gbòòrò ìbò ní gbòàgbòà so everybody ṣe sálọ nìyẹn so gbogbo alásá kúrò so ìgbà tá a máa tó padà ṣe kí ni a wá rí pé wọ́n ti gbé kíni àpótí ìdìbò pẹ̀lú pálábọ̀sà ni kíni tó fi ń dìbò ṣá wọ́n ṣàkó gbogbo ẹrù yẹn lọ so even àwọn INEC officials wọ́n ṣèṣe so most of them ṣèṣe so even lady yẹn gan ibi tí ó pamọ́ sí gan ìgbà tí wọ́n lọ gbé ó ṣì ń gbọ̀n ìgbà táwọn sójà wá rescue ẹ̀ so wọ́n wá tẹ̀lé wọ́n wá fi gbé lọ. Information táwa gbọ́ nìyẹn but ààrẹ nìkankan látàárọ̀ so ibi táwa máa ń wà ní Gazzy Park no kò síjà kò sẹ́nìtẹ̀ kò sí wàhálà kan látàárọ̀ mi ò kúrò níbí náà.
This is 081.
Welcome back from that break. That was a report as captured by a correspondent, Levy Joseph, covering Akinyele Aguda Surulere polling unit. Gentlemen, and I'd like to ask the three of you, the issue of violence in our politics. There are laws in our electoral act as amended in 2022. Why is it difficult to enforce the law?
It just speaks to the kind of people that we are. The laws are there. Just across the country, there are laws for every of these infractions, but there is no political will to do anything. If, for instance, in 2019, people were caught carrying away ballot, what happened to them? People are still doing it today because nothing has happened to the people who did it. And the same thing will continue for as long as they can get away with it. These people didn't do it on their own. They were sponsored to do it. Until we find the sponsors, we find the direct culprits and punish all of them according to the law. The Electoral Act says if somebody is involved in carrying ballot, he can be jailed for 6 months or fine 100,000. The guy will not leave the court before.
That's lenient.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the guy can carry, and then they will take him to court, and then somebody will pay before he leaves from his back pocket. He will pay the 100,000, and then so what happens? Even the judge can then vary it and say no. Look, we have to be serious in this country, and until we show the will to deal with this situation, people will say we just talk and there's no action. Look at a whole area. People walking in there free, and they're not ghosts. And there were security men there. The same thing happened in a cartel in Lekki or so. Till I'm not sure whether they still have done the election today. If these things continue, then tell me how anybody will accept the result you declare. If some areas are disenfranchised, not because they didn't want to vote, they were there. They were driven away by hoodlums. And hoodlums are not ghosts. They live in that area. And people want to tell us that they don't know them. They know them. You see, let me just give you another example. A few days ago, they said a man, they saw $500,000 with him. He was named, he was arraigned, and they took him away for. Somebody in Lagos was found with 32 million. Fresh Nigerian one, his name was not given, nothing was given by him. And that's the way it will happen. Nothing will be heard again. And then you then tell me that somebody will not be emboldened tomorrow to do worse things. Those are the issues. For as long as there's no punishment for infractions, we're just wasting our time.
Felix Okoro, let me come to you and ask you to also look at this issue for us. Electoral violence, electoral laws, and how lenient it is. And why is it difficult even to enforce this law or the laws?
Yeah, that was part of the recommendation of West panel that recommended the establishment of electoral offenses tribunal or court, because INEC, as it is presently constituted, cannot prosecute anybody for electoral offenses. Because, just as my colleague there said, a lot of impunity. People don't get punished for their infringement of the law. And if people, a society that doesn't punish offenders, has created a fertile ground for all manner of lawlessness. Electoral offenses didn't start today. We know how it is being carried out. And the police, that is the lead agency, we've watched some videos arising from yesterday's election where some people could go to a polling unit and warn that if you are not of this party, please leave here and go, because we are voting this party here. And the amazing thing is that there were police officers there. They could not even accost the man, not to talk of arresting him. And the man issued the threat and took a walk. And I'm sure he must have gone to several other places to issue such a threat. And even before this election, there was an audio, voice recorded audio that went viral, where somebody said, if you don't vote this party, don't come out that day. There was no attempt, I don't know, let me not just conclude, to get that person arrested, because the face was shown, a video evidence you hardly could deny, but the state appears too weak to enforce the law. We don't have limited laws, we have more than enough laws. And we cannot just go about legislating on every conceivable thing. We have more than enough laws, but we don't have the political way to enforce it. In most parts of the world, the police is more than enough, because there is no aspect of crime that there is no department of police that should handle it. We've created all manner of agencies, bloated our public service to the extent Orasanya report had to now streamline all these duplicated agencies. But no government has had the political will to implement that Orasanya report. So electoral violence will continue unless maybe we might be lucky, we have a government that will muster that political will to deal with such issues. And it has to start with establishing those electoral offenses tribunal or court as recommended by the West panel. Because they say problem that is identified is a problem half solved. But in our own case here, we identify the problems, but we don't take the next step to solving the problems. So we keep on lamenting. We know where the problem is, just that nobody wants to bear the cards.
Let me also come to you and for you to look at this issue of electoral violence much more closely for us.
Well, you know, political violence, you know, or violence in politics has been a major issue, you know, in Nigeria. and it dates to the First Republic. I recall a scholar who wrote on violence and politics in Nigeria, the Tiv and Yoruba experience. The book documented, you know, the forms of political violence, you know, in the old Western Nigeria, you know, and the Middle Belt, the old Middle Belt region. And the bottom line, you know, had been the unrestrained struggle for power. You know, the point, therefore, I've been making is this. There's a legal framework to deal with political violence. What I would prefer will reflect beyond the legal framework. It is obvious that the legal superstructure or the legal framework is not sufficient to address the phenomenon of violence. You know, we need a sociological explanation and interpretation of political violence. You know, how do I mean? The instances of violence, the instance of violence, it's predicated on some causative factors. Violence is symptomatic of a major and fundamental problem, you know, in our political life. And this major and fundamental problem is the nature of politics. You recall we agreed yesterday that politics is warfare. Politics is warfare. Politics ordinarily is the struggle for power. But beyond the struggle for power, politics has assumed unrestrained struggle for power in Nigeria, you know, such that the political parties and the actors within the political parties could kill, could maim, you know, and would recruit private armies and would go to every extent to gain political power. The other issue to notice, you know, the control of political power, you know, it's an end in itself in Nigeria. The control of political power means access to control of power and access to economic resources and economic power. So the control of political power equally, you know, confers control of economic resources. And state structures are therefore, you know, hijacked for private economic and group gains. The point I'm making is we need to rethink the nature of politics. We need to reduce the attraction of political office. You know, different scholars at different points that characterize the nature of politics in the sense that we are described as warfare. Politics in Nigeria had been what Richard Joseph described as prebendal politics and prebendalism. Okay? Politics in a sense in Nigeria is Patron clan based. Politics in Nigeria had been about distribution of loyalty, about distribution of largesse.
Patronage.
And patronage. No, which I referred to as the patron-client relation earlier. You know, we need to, I mentioned earlier, do sociological, you know, we need to do sociological interpretation, you know, of the nature of politics. And politics should become less attractive. The state, you know, should become, it should be more difficult to adjust state structures to control economic resources. You know, politics have been warfare. How do we shift politics from warfare to politics as fair competition? You know, I also said, you recall yesterday, that politics assumed violence due to the zero-sum nature of the Nigerian politics and the simple majoritarian rule, so that whichever fraction of the political class that assumes political power, you know, gets the all and dominates the political space and hijack the economic resources. We should consider a political representation system that would encourage sharing of political power, so that the struggle becomes less intense.
Is that possible?
Less intense. And that would mean, in the medium and long run, that politics will likely become less violent, knowing full well that even if a party loses, it may not lose all. So the desperation, you know, and the Machiavellian attitude to politics will become less emphasized. We need a broader, we need a broader context to dealing with the question of violence. It is far more than the legal. So legal is not sufficient.
Dr. Adedeji, so how do we begin to have a system? Just taking from what Dr. Shettiolu's submission, where the winner does not take it all.
You know, if we're truly serious as a people to reconfigure our nation to the benefits of the generality of the people, we need to tinker with a lot of things. And I said it before, fundamental things, if we don't do them, we can't get it right. Why is it that politics has become a profession in Nigeria? Why is it not a vocation that whoever aspires truly aspires because of what the general good is? Why is it that it is a man comes to politics with nothing, then he leaves with so much that you begin to imagine that this is a place that I can get my own to eat? Why is it that a system is permitted that a man becomes a governor for 4 years or 8 years and he goes away with so much that is denied the regular people in the society? There are professors who have not received their gratuities or their benefits. And yet these people will get a house in one place, I have cars to be changed every 4 years. Which job anywhere in the world guarantees such largesse? None. Why do we permit it? Why is it that people can go to Abuja to become representatives and then they have limited number of hours that they work and they earn more than somebody who works the whole year? What system permits that? And until we begin to disentangle so much wealth from politics, violence will be, because that, as the doctor said, if I get to this place, my life will change. So they do everything to get there. But we must make it not lucrative, not so attractive, but it must be for business. Look, I read Ben Sasse, the Republican senator. He will be leaving the Senate to go and become the vice president of a university. It doesn't happen here. The moment they leave Abuja, they stay in Abuja to continue to repopulate the system. Why can't they go back to what they were doing? If people have their profession, they have their lives professionally. If you lose, you go back and then continue. You can even leave to go and do that, but it doesn't happen in Nigeria. A man will be a governor for 8 years. When he wants to leave, he wants to go to Senate. The Senate has become the old people's home. So that people then, a retirement center. That's what it's become. So that they must always be in power. And why do they always want to be in power? There is every appurtenances of power. There is a security following them. The whole nation is struggling with security. A politician has about 16 soldiers or 16 policemen following him. And then you say there won't be crime. And then the man does not, when he travels on the road, siren blows before he gets there. It disturbs everybody on the road. What kind of system permits all those kind of things? In England, the Queen does not go out when people are going to work. She goes out because she's the only one that is permitted to use siren. So she goes out at about 11 when people have resumed. Look at here. A local government chairman has his own siren. Even his wife has. And then the office of the first lady is there. To do what? Did we vote for them? You see, when those things are permitted, he allows everybody also now wants to project his wife. And what happens? They name the streets after themselves because those are also the part of power sharing. And it's always, and they give the job to their friends, and then they perpetuate themselves. Until we look at those things, and then come back and begin to look at, these people don't make the lives of people better. They weaponize penury, so that people will be, why do you see people, babake, to who? To somebody who is the same age with your son, but because he's throwing money around, why do we permit those things? As long as our politics permits all those leakages, how much do they earn? Nobody knows in this country. Why will a man be a legislator? He has housing allowance, he has vehicle allowance, yet they give them vehicle, they give them house, and then he has wardrobe allowance. Does he not have clothes in his house before he becomes a legislator? No, if we don't do all these things, look, we will talk and talk and talk, we'll keep talking, and these people will keep enjoying the largesse of life. Can we do all the governors and calculate how much their severance pays are and see what it does to our economy? When that is permitted, nobody wants to leave the position of power. So they stay there, they go from one to the other. A governor goes to Senate, Senate goes, for crying out loud. For how long are we going to do this? Are we going to be slaves in our country? And you know, the painful thing is there's something called the Stockholm Syndrome, in which a man enjoys the punishment of his tormentor, and is even saying, Ranka Dede. That's what is happening in Nigeria. We will complain like this between electoral cycles. We go back to vote for the same people. And then you expect change. It's called insanity. You can't be doing the same things all over and expect a different result. Right. That's what we're facing.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more updates for you. It's Election Watch on Galaxy TV. Stay with us.
Voting across major polling units in Ibadan and other parts of Oyo State on Saturday started behind schedule as ad hoc staff arrived late at their respective polling units. As at 7:30 in the morning, some of the ad hoc staff were seen with the voting materials at some of the registration area center, while eligible voters had arrived their polling units waiting for exercise to commence. Accreditation and voting later commenced with the bimodal voter accreditation system at its best at most of the polling units visited across Ibadan metropolis. Some of the voters expressed their views regarding the exercise.
It's a little bit like 7 minutes before the INEC arrived now.
And the
7 minutes after the 8:30, the boss of the INEC mentioned that they will start work.
So what is
the implication is just that there will be a little bit delay. You know, the time schedule will be changed again. If we are going to start the election late now, we are going to start late now. At least their 2:30 duration has to be changed again. That is just the implication.
Also, Governor Seyi Makinde and Senator Teslim Folani speak on the voting exercise in their respective polling units.
To the people of Oyo State, they should exercise their rights. The process is on. So far, so good. Accreditation process went okay, and I wish all of us are well.
I think we are good to go. We started well. I pray we end well. Yes, we should continue the way we have started. If there are any challenge, you feel maybe like you said now, the complaint should be made. Our appropriate quarters will take very good care of it. We don't have to react negatively to any issue. And that way, we all enjoy the election season.
What if a number of people will be disenfranchised? I mean, what do you expect? People will lose their temper and anything could happen. And that's why we say that INEC ought to be fully ready before letting the public know that they are completely ready and that they believe that Nigerians will be happy with the way with their preparation, but they're not to show for it at all. I'm really disappointed. We're all told that INEC had expressed confidence that they are ready for the election, that the beavers are working. They can set the crowd here. I don't believe that most people were allowed to vote with the slow walking of the beavers, because I stayed over 25 minutes there, and yet I couldn't vote, and I was told to go and come back. And for that time, they would have rectified the beavers, so I'm highly disappointed.
Well, I'm not too impressed yet, but I expect an animal to come out. But it used to be larger than this. I've always voted here. But I know that people are going to come out more. It's too early in the day now. Since they know will come and vote and go, so everybody will come out and their own convenience, come in, vote and go, since they don't have to queue, get accredited, and come back to vote. So I don't think it's an unusual day. We have always voted. This one comes as a routine. We vote every 4 years. Vote for governor every 4 years, president every 4 years. It's not unusual. This is more or less like routine. We have come for another ritual, 4-year ritual. And I think all of us will enjoy it.
Bimodal voting and accreditation system is one innovation that everybody's applauding. And it took few seconds for me to be identified. And I think if it continues that way, it is one development that has come to stay. And I believe that we should continue with it and move beyond beavers. The end of it will be electronic voting and electronic transfer of votes.
8:30 a.m. So and you look at the regional dimension. Some regions are better in the south, for instance, southeast was just about 6%, south 11%, in the northwest, northeast above 30%. So that's it about voting. But the vote continues. We are really concerned about people not being, disenfranchised. Even as of this afternoon, Delta, there are still 2 locations that don't have INEC present yet. And if you look at different places, even the FCT, as at 8:30, 9 a.m., in some polling stations, people are still expecting INEC officials. So we hope that they will allow time for people to vote, going by the guideline. So as at 2:30, with a whole lot of people still there, so they will allow them to finish voting irrespective of the time.
50% of INEC poll officials arrive on time for the commencement of the process. However, the Southeast and South-South recorded the lowest percentage of poll officials arriving on time. In the Southeast, only 10% of poll officials arrived their respective polling unit on time, and in South-South, it was 27%. In the Northeast, 42% of poll officials got to their polling unit on time, while in the Northwest, North Central and Southwest, the figure was over 50%. However, Lagos, the state with highest number of registered voters, recorded just 18% in terms of timely arrival of INEC officials. The average opening time across the country was 9:25 a.m. That is a clear 1 hour after polling was scheduled to start. On average, CDD EAC observation showed INEC officials arrived for set up and commencement of the process between 9:30 and 10:30 a.m. in the polling unit observed. The Southeast, the average time for opening of the polls was 10:56 a.m.
Since independence, and also more recently over the last 2 electoral cycles, in terms of the dramatic improvement in INEC's preparation for the elections. The 5 areas are identity, 2, insecurity, 3, institutions, 4 will be information disorder, and 5, intra and inter-party politics. Now, in preparing this interim statement that we are putting together, giving you today, we are focusing only on two of the issues, namely insecurity and institutions.
Just as anticipating to see the arrival of the sensitive materials, which the INEC officials were here very early and we are satisfied. Yeah, actually, we are satisfied with the arrival of the materials, which they were here at the appointed time, just as the INEC chairman has promised.
Pretty early, and this year is more different. I feel this year the structure is more advancing. I'll give kudos to INEC for the work being done there, because they've now divided the polling units into different sections.
Okay, welcome back into the studios. It's still Election Watch on Galaxy TV, and I still have with me Dr. Dokun Adedeji, Dr. Dele Shetolu, and Felix Okoro in Abuja. Felix, let me come back to you as we round up this session on Election Watch before we come back with updates from the National Coalition Center in Abuja. What are your expectations? In spite of all the challenges highlighted so far, what are your expectations?
Well, INEC will manage to conclude the elections. That's the most important thing. It has to be concluded. But as per whether the outcome will be such that everybody will applaud, it's left to be seen. There have been a lot of complaints concerning INEC and to some extent security agencies. It depends on who you are listening to and the quarters they are coming from. You know, they say different stroke for different folks. So my real expectation will be that INEC will somehow conclude the process just as it has always done in the past. And if a winner emerges at this first ballot, that would be fine. But in case no winner emerges, they will not go for a rerun election, because the law stipulates that for one to be elected, not only scoring the majority of votes, but you must have 25% in 2/3. That is 24 states of the federation and the Federal Capital Territory. So it would be great if a winner emerges at the first ballot, so that it will save the nation the trauma of having to go for a rerun, because we still have another election slated for the, I think, next 2 weeks, March the 11th, so that we won't just be all doing election this year. Because until this election is done and dusted with, there will be no focus in terms of people's agenda, people's businesses, and even investors, because they are looking at how the transition will go. Because everybody is watching Nigeria to see how we are going to be able to ride through this transition. I hope it will end well in the final analysis.
Dr. Shetolu and Dr. Adedeji, just let's look beyond the challenges, just like I asked Felix, and tell us, what are your expectations?
Quite honestly, my expectation is that corrections can be made still, and then we conclude the elections and also improve the communication so that we can at least get people's mind at rest. But to be honest with you, what I would have wanted, against what Felix said, how they rerun. Maybe if there's a rerun, it can give us the opportunity of correcting practically the errors that have been committed. But in the absence of that, I will hope that we conclude the elections one way or the other, and also please make amends for those people who have been disenfranchised, and at least do something so that people can have a general view that at least we had a fair and open and transparent election, and hope for the best in the future.
Right. Dr. Shetolu.
I do not have expectations. Honest, I'm lost. Honest, seriously, I'm lost. I don't know what to say, except to mention that we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Adedeji, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Dr. Delisha Tolu, thank you for staying with us. And Mr. Felix Okoro, thank you for your time and your contribution.
Right.
We hope to have you,
much
later on the program. That's about all we can take for now on Election Watch. We'll be back with updates from the National Coalition Center in Abuja when it opens. Bye for now.